Hi everyone. Well, we've got a blustery day and it's supposed to rain, it's cool. And you know what? I want something warm for dinner. Especially because I had to drive to town today. Not my favorite thing. Traffic is nuts. So, I'm home. I can just nest in with my family, and so I decided that I wanted to make a beef stew. And I'm going to do one thing a little different, and I usually don't do this, but I decided I wanted to kind of caramelize the onions. They won't be totally caramelized, but I want to start getting that flavor in there. So I'm going to start out with the onions, and I've got them sliced thinly. I'm going to chop up, and I'm going to do that in butter. I'm going to chop up this chuck roast that I got. And it was a buy one, get one, so $14. Yeah, that's kind of nuts, but I got a second one, so not as bad. It's still pretty expensive for a chuck roast. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to use my home canned beef bone broth. I'm going to use some of my homemade onion soup mix, some of the carrots from my garden, and I'm going to use some russet potatoes, and I'm going to use some Thrive Life freeze-dried peas because that's what kind of peas that I have. Peas are one thing that just don't keep well. The frozen ones tend to get frostbite and nasty, so I love when I found these because now when I want peas, I don't have to worry about are these going to be any good or not. So, and I'm going to add a little bit of lemon thyme. I don't know if I'm going to need any salt or pepper. I may add some extra garlic. You always have to have enough garlic. And maybe even a little extra onion, but maybe not because of the caramelized. But that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to get busy getting the onions caramelized and chopping up this roast for my stew meat. So I'll bring you back in a few minutes. Oh, and by the way, when I cut up my onion, I keep the stem and the skins. I keep all of that, and I just throw it in a bag and put this in the freezer. Because when it comes time to make homemade stock or bone broth, these have the absolute best flavor in the world. Why would you throw this away? It's not garbage. I'll also keep the trimmings from my carrots and the stem ends from celery. All of that is just perfect for making your stock. So don't throw those away. Just put a bag in your freezer. Okay, it has been about half an hour. I put in 2 tablespoons of butter and my thinly sliced onion, and it's not completely caramelized, and I'm not worried about it getting totally there because there's going to be so much else going on in this. But I wanted this base for my beef stew. And I wish you could smell it. It smells so good. And if you've never made caramelized onions, it is so worth the time it takes and the attention because it's magical. The flavor is just magical. So if you were going to fully caramelize this, you would let it keep going. And I don't know if you can see on my spatula, that's kind of the color you're going for. But like I said, I could let it keep going, but I don't know how much more you're going to taste when this all gets put together. So this, I think, is where I want to start. And I'm going to add about another tablespoon or so of butter. And I'm going to put the meat in. And you can totally do this in a crock pot. Now, I could do that, but today is very overcast. Although we do have wind, so we make a little bit of power that way. You're not making that much power. And to use a crock pot is resistive heat, which uses more energy. However, I have this wonderful range. And this burner, these two burners, are capable of turning down so that they come on for 8 seconds out of every minute. So I could completely put this on in the morning and treat it like a crock pot meal, especially in my cast iron Dutch oven. I love this stuff. I'm a cast iron junkie, I admit. Okay, so I've got a little more butter in there. And now I'm going to add my beef. And I made pretty good sized chunks of beef, like that, because this is hearty beef stew. Sorry about that, but that's the best way for me to split that. So I just cut it in large chunks. I took most of the gristle out. There wasn't a lot of fat, just a little bit. But there's nothing worse to me than biting into a piece of gristle, so took it out as much as I could get. So I'm just going to let this start to brown just a little, and it's crowded in there, so it's not going to fully brown. But that's okay. I'm just going to let it get going. And when I get slightly browned, I'll bring you back and show you what I do next. Alright, it's not totally brown, it doesn't need to be, but most of the red outside is gone. Okay, so I'm going to first add, this is my homemade onion soup mix, and I just stir it up real well because it settles. Seasonings tend to settle. And I have quite a bit of onion in there, so I think I'm just going to put maybe a tablespoon and a half. And then I'm going to add my home canned beef bone broth. We'll start with that. That is, about a pint and a half maybe. And if I need more, I can add it. That aside. And then I have about a tablespoon of fresh thyme that I took off the stem and just lightly chopped it. You can use dried. I have this that I need to use so it doesn't go bad. And this is lemon thyme, but I tasted it. You can smell the lemon, but you really can't taste it. So, not too worried about that. So I add that in. And this is that word that I always have trouble with, Worcestershire sauce. And if I did it wrong, just don't even tell me, because you know I'm going to do it wrong. I always do. And I just love the flavor of it, so I don't know. I'll put in a couple tablespoons and we'll see what that tastes like. If I need more, I can always add it later. Alright, now I'm just going to let this simmer I think I'm going to cover it. So I'm going to let it simmer for about half hour, 45 minutes. Really start to infuse the beef with all this flavor. And then I'll check it and adjust my liquid or my seasonings as needed. And then we will add the vegetables. I'm going to add potatoes, carrots, and my freeze-dried peas. That's what it was. I knew there was something else. You know, by the end of the day, I'm just not so good. So I'll bring you back when we're ready to do that. Okay, I've let this cook. It's been more like an hour. I went out and did some stuff outside, did some stuff inside, so it smells wonderful, it looks wonderful. But for the amount of vegetables I'm going to add, and especially because I'm adding the freeze-dried peas, and I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of this quart of beef bone broth. Now, if this is too thin when I'm finished, which it probably will be, but that's okay because I can add a slurry made with non-GMO cornstarch. I really don't like regular cornstarch, so we will use the non-GMO. It will serve the same purpose. I could use arrowroot powder. I use that fairly often, but I have this available. So, and I'm going to add probably another tablespoon, a little over a tablespoon of Worcestershire. This stuff, okay? Don't make me say it again. I love this stuff. I just can't say it. My mouth doesn't work that way. I'm going to add some fresh ground black pepper. And I like to wait till this point to add seasonings because you know what? It's easier to add than it is to take away. So I've got some of this dried minced garlic, a little over a teaspoon. And I'm going to add just a little bit, a few shakes of ground nutmeg. Not a lot. I just think it needs that flavor. And just a small pinch of salt. I already had some salt in my onion soup mix, so I didn't want to add that until the flavors came together. So I'm going to give that a stir. And I'm going to add my vegetables. That's about I'm going to say about 2 good-sized carrots. And these were little bitty potatoes, so I don't know, there's probably about 3 to 4 fair-sized ones. But all I had is these little bitty potatoes, so that's what I'm using. Alright, get those in there. I'm going to turn the heat up slightly since these are going to cool it off. And I had this down below low, so it was one of the intermittent cycles. And I'm going to do about half a cup of the freeze-dried peas. If you have frozen or fresh, go ahead and use them. But I don't, so I'm going to add these. I may add a little more. We'll see. They don't take long to refresh in this. But it just needs a little bit of green vegetable. So added that in. Now I'm going to cover this back up and let this cook. I'm going to give it a good half hour, maybe 45 minutes, because it's kind of cooled off. And then we'll come back and give it a check. And I love my cast iron. All right, I'll bring you back when I check it again. It's been about 45 minutes, and oh, it smells wonderful. And I've tasted it, and the seasonings taste right. So now I'm going to make up a quick slurry. Non-GMO cornstarch and a little bit of water. Oh, this is just going to be so good. And I might just have to make, this is going to be a lot because this just for me and Brian. Although my dogs would love to get hold of this, they're not going to. But I may just have to make a beef pot pie or a shepherd's pie tomorrow. Wouldn't this be good? Oh, it just looks amazing. And the olive oil, you're not getting it. Oh yes, perfect. This is done. So I'm gonna serve up a bowl of this. And this is just beautiful. So let me take a picture and then I'll bring you back for a taste. This just looks amazing. All right, we're gonna take a taste. So we're gonna get just a little bit of carrot. Let's see if I can get just a little bit of potato and peas. It's not all gonna fit in one bite. Nothing's overcooked, it's just right. And the beef is perfect and tender. So, wonderful beef stew. So easy and so satisfying when it's a chilly night. Thank you for watching. So this is what it's looking like outside. Blustery, cool. It's not cold yet. I think that's coming. And we're probably going to get more rain. We've gotten a little. But this is perfect weather for beef stew. Yum.